we were that.
I read it, now Dwayne's read it, so yeah, this is a contract. Jessica, there's a cap on there, not to exceed 20,000 unless,
And that's what we had in the budget, wasn't it?
yeah,
I think
yeah.
so. Well, I make a motion that we approve the contract renewal for Jessica Conley,
I'll sit
county CPA,
with the cap of 20,000.
with a
Yep.
cap of 20,000.
Mhm.
I'll second that.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. So on the agenda here, it's, the topic says longevity for sheriff's deputies, possible executive session. Do we have more than one topic today, and do they both need to be executive, or?
And it's, it could be up to the officers who we're
Make that-
talking about if they want to keep it open or if they want to close it. But I think one of the first issues was, and I think this one's okay to talk about too, was the longevity payments that Jessica initially talked to me about regarding the sheriff's office. And initially, and sorry, of course, I'm getting this memo done at 8 o'clock last night. It's the only way I get things done is when it has to be done because it gets put to the back burner. But initially, when Under Sheriff Boone had come and talked to me, and then I had talked to Jessica about this, I didn't think that longevity had anything to do with pay freezes.
Mm-hmm.
So I was not aware of that. But then when we looked at the language of the statute, I was thinking maybe the may was permissive. So I said, that just doesn't make sense to me. I just don't think that's right. So when I actually last week did some research, I didn't get a chance to call Brian, but I actually did some research. Jessica's right. Longevity does affect pay freeze, or the longevity is affected by pay freezes. And when I was doing some research, I found Attorney General Attorney General opinion that was exactly on point. A couple of county attorneys back in the 80s had asked these exact same questions. So I attached that, and with the memo, I did talk to Under Sheriff Boone and let him know that it's actually, to me, it just didn't seem right, but it's right. And and Attorney General opinions are law unless the Supreme Court or the legislature changes it. So it's considered law, even though it's an Attorney General opinion. So regarding those two issues, and like I said, I did talk to Under Sheriff Boone, is longevity pay of a county employee with the sheriff's office affected when the county commissioners order a pay freeze? And then I restated as if the county commissioners set the salary for a deputy sheriff at the same level of pay as the prior fiscal year, is the deputy's longevity pay frozen? And the answer is yes. And then I did attach the Attorney General's opinion so everyone can read that. And deputies, and it's deputy and under sheriff. And then issue 2 was if a pay freeze is lifted the following year and the county commissioners authorize a cost of living increase, does the deputy sheriff's longevity pay include additional longevity pay for the time period during which his salary was frozen? No. And which that was another thing that didn't make sense to me. I thought, well, longevity, if you work 20 years, you should get 20 years longevity. If there was 10 years of pay freeze, you don't get that.
You only get 10 years of
Yes.
longevity.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't affect your retirement. It doesn't affect, your benefits in terms of vacation, stuff like that. But it does affect. So I was incorrect until I actually sat down and took a look at it. And there was an Attorney General opinion that asked these exact on-point questions.
Right.
Now, I know that there's another issue, though, in talking with Under Sheriff Boone, where he kind of wants to sit down and go through his numbers. So I think that's going to be more personal, where maybe he sits down with you and Nicole and just goes through his numbers and to see if his pay is correct.
Yeah, and we talked about that the other day.
Yeah, I think.
We did, but if you need more time, we can spend more time on it
Yeah.
until you feel comfortable with the calculation.
It's pretty disheartening. I spoke with a ton of different counties on this whole thing, and because of like the coroner pay, the sheriff gets $6,000 a year. I mean, I've been here for almost 12 years now. I understand the pay freeze thing, get credit for 8, but as undersheriff, I've been here almost, as undersheriff over 7, and there's 85 cents difference between me and one-year deputy. You know, Ronnie's kind of in the same spot too. She's barely making anything over, and she's been here for 25 years. So, I mean, there's got to be something there that's. I mean, when you guys cut me and her out of here because we were non-union, that just hammered us. I mean, these guys will pass us real quick. And I spoke to Jessica about it, and we make less this year than we did last year, and she can confirm that.
Right, with the,
With the lack of the shift
letter, yes.
differential.
Yep.
Yeah, and the certain.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Under Sheriff Boone brought me up a letter from last October, which then kind of made sense, because Under Sheriff Boone was telling me he was making less, and then going through, well, what had happened was the non-union employees were getting some of the union benefits, and maybe if that was historically the way it was decided that that wasn't going to happen anymore. That put a hit on you, and I didn't realize it was Roddy too. Yeah.
And I spoke, like you said, I spoke with a ton of different counties, and like the sheriff in this county gets 6,000. One of the other counties, I think it was Treasure, which is quite a bit smaller than us. That sheriff gets 4,000. His deputy coroners get 3,000. Other counties, Cascade County, Roseville, some of those other ones. I only called ones where it was sheriff/coroner, and how they dealt with it was twofold. One, when there was a pay freeze, they always gave each one of the elected officials $1 a year more. And that would not ding the law enforcement side of it on the longevity, because that directly affects our retirement.
Right, because your salary is tied into the percentage of the sheriff's.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when there's a freeze, then if they get $1, and me and you spoke about that in the past, we talked about a penny, but they do $1. And the other side was on the coroner portion of it. Like I said, some did the 4,000, some did the 3,000 for the deputies, 4 for the sheriff, because of whatever their value is for a coroner. Others did, the sheriff gets his allotment, the lead coroner, or chief deputy coroner in my case, got $200 a pay period. All the deputy coroners got $150 per pay period. So they broke that out like that. There was nothing statutorial about it, but that's how those other counties were doing it. Yeah, I mean, they did the percentage thing. When you figure out that $150 or $200 per pay period, it pretty much equaled out to like that one Treasure County did the 4,000 and 3,000. They just did it in a block and then divided out per pay period.
Per pay
So
period.
I'm sure it worked out about the same.
And there's not going to be any more changes, I mean, because of the switch to not receiving union benefits if you're non-union. That's it, right? I mean, there's no more, because when I was looking at the statute, I think you can get up to 3, one particular person can have 3, you know, if you're the undersheriff and you get the assistant coroner, you can get like a maximum of 3 add-ons.
Certain pays.
Yeah. So we're at the lowest we can be, right? There's nothing else that can be.
Well, that's up to them if they want to add cert pays, but that would affect these guys.
Right.
That
It's
would
a
close
union,
that
yeah,
gap.
it's
Right.
not statute, it's a union.
Right, but I mean, there's nothing else for you and Ronnie
No,
that can be taken down.
and we're down to our basic
Right.
base wage now.
Yeah. And I almost think that this then has to come back to, and this is so tough because maybe not figuring out the numbers for this upcoming year, but this is going to have to be something that we'll have to sit down with Sheriff Bauer, I think, too, because this is going to be something where he's going to have to come, I would think, to the commissioners as part of the budget process and ask for a pay increase for you to, and this is why. I mean,
Well,
you know, but
originally
the tough
this-
thing is
This was
they've already
because
decided the budget.
we're directly tied to his base wage.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the union came in, and to make up that difference, so there was a little bit of a spread between everybody, and it evened it out, because you couldn't give him more to give the deputies a little more. It was a union negotiation thing that we all shared. which these guys, you know, they're still union, so they get it,
Right, right,
but we don't.
right.
So we're going backwards.
Yeah. And that was kind of the note, I think, in the letter too, about there was some concern about union members who are paying union dues and non-union people who are getting the union benefits. But when that's been taken away, you guys are making, and I assume you too, Ronnie, are making less than you were last year.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Because of that.
because they're not- yeah. And then the other problem too, if we try to bring other people up, because the sheriff's statutorily set, I've heard some sheriffs say, well, why am I even bothering to be the sheriff? I should just be the undersheriff because he's making as much as me. So when we have that problem.
Yeah, sometimes
Yeah.
you'll see, or even deputies or police officers who may, in a paycheck, make more than the sheriff
Yeah.
because they had all the overtime.
Well, that's,
Which,
you know,
that's
they get
just the
20
way-
years
yeah.
in versus a sheriff's been here 3.
Mhm.
But I mean, there's a $10,000 gap between the two, me and Tom,
Mhm.
which is pretty significant for somebody who's been here for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And I've been here for 12.
And he's been as the sheriff?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, I almost feel like from here, it's got to be something in the sheriff's department, because there's got to be a way that's figured out
I think with
on the next
Ronnie-
budget year.
Ronnie, so right now they're looking at doing a payroll matrix.
And that's the
And
other
that-
thing we
that-
emailed about, saying, yeah, just.
That
didn't
needs
we
to be
email?
done.
Okay, yeah. I feel like, or did I just think we
Because
emailed?
For me, I
Yeah.
kind of feel like it's a slap in the face when somebody's making like $2 less than I do, and I've been here so long,
Mhm.
and they're brand new, and I mean, you know how rumors are. Rumors are already going around with certain people getting raises. I'm not naming names, doesn't matter, because they deserve the raise. But when you don't get that same raise or that same, consideration.
Well, and
it's like a
that's-
slap in the face, and you've been here forever. I'm on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I have one little benefit, I get a car, but I still do corner calls. I still have to come in on big emergencies. I get called in for that. So, I mean, we all have, and I think a lot of people forget also that the sheriff's office is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have to have people in. And, I mean, right now, we're still down to 3 full-time people, well, 4, because we've got 1 in training. But I still have 1 position, and I have a part-timer working it, so we can at least have days off. Otherwise, there's no days off. Not with 3 people in training.
Yeah, because we actually had emailed about doing some kind of pay matrix too, or considering doing some kind of stat. I mean,
I think
just
that's what would help
could help.
Ronnie,
Yeah. And maybe help too, because there is, I mean, we all work, we don't work just because we want to. We're working for the pay, and a lot of times people say, well, that's how I know that you value me as an employee, is by the rate of pay you pay me, or that you can pay me. I mean, there's employees that you'd love to pay $100 an hour for because they're that good, but you just can't. But that's why we work, and that's why people stay. I mean, that's why we have longevity. We're trying to say, hey, thank you for sticking with us. And so then it feels, like you said, like a slap in the face when you are only making a little bit more and you're on call 24 hours a day. So if we had something, and I think that would probably help, because I do feel like there's like kind of a discord in the courthouse. There's definitely just feelings of just being non-supported, or just feeling,
that it's not equitable.
yes. And I think that's where a matrix would come in, where it looks at what your job is, what is required for your job, how long you've been here, and how well you do on your annual evaluations or something. And then so it's very clear that when you're a level 5, you get this much more than a level 2.
Yep. I think that would be the solution for a lot of the problems right now,
Yeah.
for sure. So I think that's something the county should do, but it wouldn't help Boone.
Right.
But it will
see
help.
that-
But it will help Ronnie.
Right. And then the other thing is I don't even know if this could be something that could be done within this fiscal year. I mean, I was even thinking with Boone, it might not be till 18-19, Because that's when I would encourage Sheriff Bauer, when he comes back to the commissioners in the next fiscal year, to say, because Under Sheriff Boone took a hit here because we took out the union benefits, we need to, look at the percentage thing and how we're going to work this out, because nobody should be making less than. I mean, if we all had to start paying health insurance, then yeah, I can get how we might be making less than. But I don't think that wasn't the intention, that somebody from last year to this year would be making less than what they were making the previous year. Unless they, said, okay, now I'm going to get dental, and that's why we know that it was. So I don't think that was the intention, but
When I
that
first became
happened.
undersheriff, I took a $3,000 to $4,000 hit then, because Johnson and prior undersheriffs got like X amount of dollars, $3,000 to $4,000 for as coroner as well, as long like the sheriff, just like those other counties were doing. And you guys cut that then. So I lost that, and then lost the union portion of it too. So actually I've lost almost $7,000 a year between the two of them.
You never had the coroner one, but in theory you could have, but they
Yes,
canceled it. So you never had it to lose it, but I understand what
But
you're
yeah, they
saying.
cut it out of the undersheriff.
They cut it
pay.
before you ever even got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's probably what I would look at, would be maybe adding some sort of coroner pay or something. Possibly. So
And
we
that's
couldn't take it-
legitimate.
we
I mean,
couldn't
we've
take
done it before.
You couldn't
The
take it
commissioners
away from
voted on it For
Tom.
me to have mine.
Pardon me?
The commissioners voted on it, because I came to the commissioners when I became a coroner, and I was going out on calls. I came to the to the commissioners and asked if I could have the cert pay at that time, and that was back in 2011, I believe, or 2012. And you guys voted on it, so I could have the cert pay, because I'm a deputy
And Boone
coroner.
should still be getting it too.
But the cert pay we don't get.
Only
We
I
were-
get-
Oh, I mean the coroner call, when
Yeah.
you go on the coroner call.
Yeah, I mean, just the call pay versus the cert pay. I mean, these guys get paid to be certified in it, and the call pay. So they're, they get
Can you join the
compensated
union?
for that. We're not. No, they won't.
You
let
can't
me.
you can't, it's not
as
an option.
administration.
And neither can she.
I see.
Yeah.
And then, and last year, Ronnie, there was an attempt to help you feel valued. That's why the 2% longevity for you was thrown in there for your years of service. So last year was a tough year. We had to rip people, but there still was some effort to try to reward people that have been here for a while, 50 cents plus 2%. We're still trying to work within our means. Like you said, a lot of these people here are worth $100 an
Right,
hour.
which it comes down to. I mean, it comes down to our, the priority of the commissioners and the financial and the county attorney is the county and keeping it solvent. So that's what we have to look at too. It's tough to balance, but going back to, I really don't think somebody who has been who was working here last year should be making less this year.
Yeah.
But
Seems
then
like
we have
get
to.
penalized for trying to stay and, be a good employee and, because there's such a turnover in this county, we all know that.
Yeah.
I mean, for us to stay longer, we go backwards. Kind of disheartening,
Right. So we have to figure out a way to address that. But I think long term, some kind of pay matrix would help.
It would help, yeah. It would help
But
the majority of people.
right, but with Boone,
What was your cert pay?
1,400 a year plus the 50 cents to 75 cents an hour, or 1,500 a year, and then the 50 or 75 cent shift differential.
Basically, got another 1,040 in wages and another 1,500 in cert pay.
I think it was about 3,000 or so, wasn't it? Yeah.
Mine was only 500 for the cert pay, and occasionally,
So yours was
When I
about
worked
1,000 maybe.
maybe, if that.
But Boone's was quite a bit more, about 3,000.
It's still kind of lost.
is that something we can look at during this year?
Budget's
This,
already-
yeah, the budget's done, so
It'd be up
Budget
to the
set.
commissioners,
yeah.
budget was finalized last year, I don't know what the reasoning was cutting us last year after the budgets were already settled, but.
Yeah, what was that? That letter was dated October. Yeah, and the budget had been set by then.
It was well after, I think it was, how I remember it was, they didn't, I can't remember, I think the commissioners didn't realize that you weren't part of the union, but yet you were getting the union benefits, and that's when they realized it is when they made that decision.
I mean,
But that
Been
just
like that
happened,
from
so happened in
30 years.
October.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know, I wasn't, I didn't really have much to do with that.
I mean, this is the
Um,
first time it's been addressed really, since that letter came out. We never got the opportunity like these guys are getting, come in and talk to it. I don't think there's anything in the minutes.
Yeah, well, I did send an email to Casey. She's going to be looking for the minutes for us to see if there's any discussion on that. So is this something we want to maybe put back on the agenda specific to Under Sheriff Boone?
Well, and.
I don't know. What do you think, Jessica? I don't know.
I don't think it's our decision.
Okay.
I think the commissioners need
Okay.
to decide, really.
Okay.
So after last year, how come you didn't come in before now when we were doing the budgets and, wait till after the budget is done before you come in and say anything?
Well, I mean, during the budgets, it was fires too, But prior to that, I mean, I did a lot of research and stuff trying to find any statute.
But you got this letter last October.
Well, that's when you guys signed it. I didn't get it for months later from Charlie. And then it was stuffed in my mailbox in an envelope. So.
That was when she was done, when she quit.
Yeah, it was whenever Charlie quit, that's when we got it. That was one of her, oh, I'm gonna give you this. And she never even gave it to us, she just put it in her box. So there was quite a few months lag in there.
Well, and we got, Casey and I have union negotiations this Tuesday, so we'll see what
Comes
money,
out of that.
what money is left if any to try to make adjustments. We just have to see what,
Good, because you do have kind of a set budget, or a set amount, kind of, that to work with on
Mhm.
that. I think that's a good idea.
And with AJ and, is that a different issue then?
yeah, that's a second
Yeah, and
one.
let's, so what, just so I'm clear, what are we doing with Under Sheriff Boone?
We're having to wait to see what monies I have left.
Okay,
We
from
have a union
union
negotiation.
thing, okay, gotcha. Just want to make sure.
Getting back to what
Everybody
you
got
said,
that?
we'd like to pay everybody $100 an hour, but
Yeah, we just
only have so
can't.
much revenue.
Yep. Now, what's the sergeant and deputy Allard issue? I know, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I know we,
I really don't know.
So they were paid incorrectly,
oh, right.
and so
Are you
based
gentlemen
on
okay with
longevity.
whoever's in here is in here? Okay. Okay,
Right.
keep going.
So, anyway, so this, a couple weeks ago or whatever, I went in and did the calculations to determine everybody's raise and was looking at everybody's old rate. And I noticed that Andrew and Micah, their rate in the system didn't agree to the rate it should have been. And anyway, in May, from what I understand, they came in with a spreadsheet that I had prepared 7 months, 8 months earlier or something along those lines before, before it was adjusted for them for their longevity hours. Anyway, they brought it in and they gave it to the payroll clerk, and she was thinking that, well, she must have made a mistake, and so she fixed, she back paid them a bunch of longevity that shouldn't have been. So anyway, so they owe money back because of this. Andrew owes $722 and Micah owes $228. They were overpaid. So I guess the question is how to get it back. Do we want to, and that's where you guys can come in and, do we want to take it over the next 2 pay periods or 3 pay periods or something like that?
So as far as getting it back, you guys are just gonna decide that?
No, that's what I was
No.
looking at you.
We're involving you. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I know you're involved, I appreciate that, but we're just gonna leave that decision with you guys.
Oh,
And as far as the spreadsheet goes, the spreadsheet was on my desk, and it said
Yeah.
4AJ, and it was circled. I don't know who it came from or anything, so I took it to Nicole, and I said, hey, it's on my desk, don't know what it is, and I'm not putting the blame on her or anybody else. I mean, there's
yeah.
a lot of that we
No,
could
it was really
do,
weird.
but-
I think that spreadsheet came from, so back in September or August, 9 months, 10 months earlier is when that spreadsheet was printed, and it was either given to Ronnie, Tom, or Boone because they were curious about Tom's pay, Tom's calculation. And on that, there were those deputy, down below, but they hadn't been adjusted. It was just for Tom's pay. So it is funny, that 9 months later, somebody circles it, puts it on your desk. So that's just kind of odd. And I think so we apologize for any confusion on that. It shouldn't have ever been adjusted though, because it was correct. That initial adjustment we did this time last year was the correct adjustment.
So like I said, and I'm not speaking for Micah, but as far as my end, I'll let you guys decide how that comes back, keeping in mind the precedents that have been set in the past years with repaying money. So that's pretty much all I have to say. I'll just wait till I get your decision, and then we'll go from there.
Do you have any questions about, anything you need to sit down to look at, that the calculations are correct? Okay. All right, and then what do you mean by the precedents? What's been passed?
Just people have been overpaid in the past in the county and asked to, we're not gonna have it paid back, or we are. So
Okay.
that's information that you guys have that I don't have all of, so.
Okay.
But I would say I would take a look at that.
How about you?
We're on the same.
Okay.
I agree with them. We'll let you guys figure it out.
Okay.
And do you have any questions about the numbers? Do you feel like you want to sit down to look at, to make sure that
Nope.
what we calculated is right?
The only thing I remember about that is that I got informed that I was getting back pay or something like that. It was on my paycheck, and I was like, cool. Hey, what's this? Okay.
Right, yeah, you can't complain about
So-
that, yeah.
Oh, why was it only the 2 deputies got that? How come other ones didn't get
Because
that?
the other rates were correct on that spreadsheet.
Oh, okay.
The only ones that were wrong, or that I thought was wrong, because it was the spreadsheet made out, that I figured that I just missed something, missed these 2 rates, that I had made a mistake. And so I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I must have been dyslexic or something and put those rates in wrong, I don't know. But everyone was correct, except those 2, so.
Okay.
And then there was other, I did look back and there was just confusion on which rate, because there was other rates saying current rate 1887, but then there was one saying current rate 1868 or whatever it was. So I had no idea which one to go off of, and then, that sheet was brought to me, a spreadsheet that Jessica had made up. So I was like, oh, I don't.
This has got to be accurate.
This should be correct. I'm sorry that I made the mistake. And then I fixed it, did their back pay, and then
It was
it was just
So-
a huge misunderstanding.
right. So if this, what's our policy or what's our procedure on something like this? If something comes to you, like if I come to you and say, hey, I think my rate of pay is incorrect.
So
Who should-
This is how the policy should be.
Yes, okay.
So this
And we
is-
want to make sure we have
These are
that.
the procedures that
Just
should
for
happen.
protection for Nicole too.
So Nicole should never give anybody a pay raise without having something from HR, right?
Okay.
So if
So to
somebody.
HR first.
Yeah, so, like, yeah, so it needs to come from HR and it needs to come in some sort of writing, you know, I think there's a form possibly or whatever. It needs to be on a form and it needs to go from HR to Nick, and then the payroll clerk, simply, all they do, they do what they do what they're told by somebody else. They don't make decisions on rate increases or adjustments or anything like that. And then the ultimate check of this and how it's supposed to work is with the commissioners.
Right.
So the commissioners, because we just have one person in that position, in finance, it's really just one person, the commissioners are the check.
Right.
And so the commissioners get the time cards and they get the pay stubs. And so they need to tie out those time cards to the pay stubs. And if there's something on that pay stub that doesn't make sense or that doesn't tie, they need to inquire.
Okay.
on it.
And
And that's the check.
do we, because I wonder, we kind of halfway have had an HR for the last couple of years. I wondered if we have the procedure laid out regarding that.
I don't, you know, there's.
Yeah, because we'll
there
want
are
to check on that.
no- For finance, there's really no procedure book.
Right, but I mean, I'm just thinking like even county-wise in our policy and procedure manual, or just something in your department manual, so you know that you're not just left hanging out there.
Yeah.
And that,
And that protects, you know, Nick or the
right,
payroll clerk
right.
also.
And, you know, the
Yeah.
employees, so we make sure,
Yeah,
okay, everybody has
that's the
seen this
flow.
and this is what we, okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, so just, how do you feel about
So
that?
is there a written policy now on how you handle that?
Well, we just pulled the finance out last year. I mean, we just created the finance last year, so we're just kind of,
Yeah, even
You
before
know.
it was pulled out, there's no finance, there's no
No.
procedure manual.
No.
There has never been.
I spoke with Cascade County, not to interrupt you,
Yeah.
but they pulled theirs out too. Maybe get a hold of them and say, hey.
yeah, there's a number of counties that
Yeah.
have their own finance.
Yeah, that's
office
nothing,
now.
I mean, they may have policies.
they probably don't, the smaller counties don't, but we could, the larger counties do have finance, policy manuals. And we could get that and then at least start with that and edit it down to what applies.
Right, because I'm sure we won't need
Is it-
the scope of
Yeah, but-
Cascade counties but,
Yeah, but, I mean, it sure wouldn't be a bad idea, that's for sure. It's always good to have policies that people can look back on
right.
and see. Yep. What do you guys think about 3 pay periods? Would that be okay?
It's for you guys to decide.
Okay. Just something so it's not this huge, you know, deduction in 1 pay period. So I'm thinking 3, if you think that's okay. We could do 4 if you wanted.
Again, that's your decision.
Either way, you're fine. Okay,
No, I'm just saying it's your decision.
okay.
And then
You don't have a preference to spread it out?
It's their decision.
Okay,
And then we'll see where we're at the end of that.
okay. Does anybody recall being on the commission previously if there's been a mistake in pay and how we've gone about recouping the,
Nick, when there was that union error, because the union agreement was written wrong, and
Yeah.
so we back paid, and then they corrected the union agreement, and we had to collect money back, did we do it over
How many
3
periods?
pay periods? We could look.
I want to say 3. A lot of the checks were brought back. They hadn't
They had
Cash
cash.
them.
them
yeah.
yet.
Yeah.
So they're, I think.
We could
There's
look.
only a
I wanna
couple,
say
I think,
3
that we
for the
had to.
ones that-
Yeah.
I feel like it was 3, but
Yeah,
I'm
because
not
that
sure.
only affected the jailers and the dispatchers.
But a lot of them, we caught it early enough to where they didn't even
Catch the check.
catch them.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was nearly this amount, because there was only 20 cents difference between the 50-cent raise versus the 70-cent raise, and they had reversed it on the union contract.
Uh-huh. Right. So,
This
yeah.
is the one where the union contract was.
Yeah, was, they had it backwards.
Yeah, because that could be something to look at of just kind of like the sergeant said, how have we done it in the past? If we want to just,
And you thought it was 3 pay periods, on the top of your head?
We can look.
There was so much going on during that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can look. My guess is it was 3 too, but, so we can just do it the same as that one, if you guys think. As that last correction that we had to recoup.
Mhm.
Okay? Do it the same?
Okay.
All right.
Anything else on this, these issues?
does that need a vote, do you think? Or by the commissioners at all?
I wouldn't think so.
Okay.
I would kind of like to go into executive session, I think, for somebody. For Boone,
Okay.
just to talk about something that in his pay.
Okay.
Well, yeah, we can ask Mr. Boone, who do you want out and who do you want to stay, or what?
Everybody here can stay, I mean, I
Okay.
don't know if you want to keep recording or not.
No.
Yeah, no recording, if that's okay, Mary. Or that is okay, Mary.
Yeah.